Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. What I love and don't. Maybe showing you mine will encourage you to show me yours. First, what I love. In addition to my standard loves, my wife and my doggie, for example, the following are less common. Coffee. It's my antidepressant without side effects, and when I sip coffee in my local cafe, I often have stimulating conversations with a fellow regular. My bathroom heater. I enjoy the small instant heat heater on my bathroom counter. It's made by Lasco. It's available on Amazon, $40. Great for cold mornings. My hair cutter. Dogs are prohibited in the salon, but my hair cutter Ying, not only allows Hachi, but stops to play with them and give them a treat. Besides, Ying gives a fine haircut for just $22. Hole-in-the-wall family-run restaurants. For example, Great Wall, near where I live, served fresh, delicious Chinese food at a fair price. Its owner told me that early every morning he would go to the wholesale produce market to get the best and freshest vegetables. Well, alas, Great Wall has been replaced by an upscale dumpling place, which seems to have put much of its investment into beautiful signage. I tried it. Not only was the food worse, gristle included, no extra charge, it was much more expensive. Of course, with a different owner. Toyotas. My wife and I have had Toyotas since 1978, and each one has provided reliable transportation with minimal maintenance and repair for well over 200,000 miles each, at which point we sold them, not for any particularly good reason, all while they were still performing just fine. Vanessa Padron, my doggie's hair cutter. Hachi's previous hair cutter required him to sit in a cage for a few hours until it was his turn. Well, Vanessa takes Hachi from my hands and right into the bath. Happy Hachi. Not only does he come out looking great, Vanessa even expresses his anal glands. Or is that too much information? First tastes. That first sip of coffee or bite of croissant. The minutes after I give a piano concert, the feeling is relief. Sports sounds. The swish of a basketball net. The crack of the ball against the bat, especially if it was my doing. The Percy Faith Orchestra. You laugh at me if you will, but I consider that the most enjoyable and certainly most relaxing music. I was listening to it as I wrote this. Personalizing postage stamps to the recipient. I keep an array of unused postage stamps that call to me, plus some random vintage ones. When I mail a letter, I enjoy picking stamps that I think a recipient would like. My default is something called the Giving Tree stamp. You can Google it. Other times, I might use a half dozen low-denomination vintage stamps to add up to the needed postage. I also love Google Search's AI synthesis. Now, most Google searches yield an AI-generated summary of top results. It's not perfect, but usually good enough, at least as a first take. I only wish that Google search results weren't liberal biased. A visible, if minor, manifestation of that is that white men are rarely found in the top image results, unless it's a negative character like a used car salesman. And the final thing I love is merit. My most deeply held belief is that selecting on merit without regard to demographics is foundational to a better society in the long run. Now, things I don't love. Passwords. Why not iris or fingerprint recognition, or at least, instead of a password after you've entered your username, they send an email to your address of record with a code to enter? Noise. I get stressed by neighbors with incessantly barking dogs, or cars with loud exhaust and blaring music, restaurants and cafes with music so loud you can't relax, let alone think or chat, and leaf blowers. For all their noise, they mainly just blow garden detritus and its exhaust into the air. Gardeners and environmentalists, let's hear it for the rake and the broom. Promise, then shrug. When some people fail to keep a promise, they think, no biggie. Being ghosted. I'd rather be rejected than in limbo forever. Frou-frou. Rarely do I find expensive restaurants, or wine, or designer-label clothes, or cars, five-star hotels, or real jewelry near worth the money. Give me the aforementioned hole-in-the-wall restaurants, Toyotas, and cubic zirconium, although I'm not sure my wife would agree. Dunning-Krugers. Those are the loud and prouders who aren't smart enough to realize they should be quieter. If you think that might apply to you, step back and think for a moment about how people are really reacting to you. Editors. Many editors don't improve my writing. Some make changes that distort my meaning, or to substitute their values for mine. At best, editors delay publication. That's one reason I write on Medium.com. No intermediary. The mainstream media. Despite having lived largely in a bubble, many journalists have the hubris to abandon their time-honored role as reporter of the news in favor of being leftist agitators of the news. They use clever wordsmithing to manipulate us into believing what they believe, voting as they want us to, so that where they select topics, who they interview and how, biased word choice, paying just lip service to contrary views, and the 3 C's, which I'll tell you about in a couple minutes. Certainly fair-mindedness is possible. Check out cspan.org, allsides.com, intelligencesquare.com, opentodebate.org, and the Free Press, that's the fp.com. It was started by New York Times journalist Barry Weiss, who despite being liberal was frustrated at the paper's relentlessly one-sided hard-left bias. The FP.com has only been around for 4 years, but already has 1 million paid subscribers, including me. Education, pre-K through graduate school. Alas, education is America's most overrated product. And I speak as a UC Berkeley PhD specializing in the evaluation of education. It is easier for me than for a current educator to be candid, because I no longer have skin in the game. Let's start with preschool. To support additional funding for Head Start, the Obama administration commissioned its meta-evaluation. That's an evaluation of many studies. To the administration's dismay, the results? No enduring difference with a control group compared with a control group. How about K-12? Well, the U.S. spends nearly the most per capita, including more than $1 billion in just 1 year on diversity, equity, and inclusion, yet its achievement compared with other developed nations is 18th. 3 places below the butt of too many jokes, Poland. Perhaps that's not a surprise because powerful lobbies have twisted government's arm into eliminating ability group classes. After all, if you were trying to learn Spanish, you'd probably learn more in a class with mainly people who are beginners, not one that was liberally laced with native speakers of Spanish. And the teachers' union has pressured government into granting teachers tenure for life after just 2 or 3 years. A teacher may be okay for a while, but over the decades may burn out, only to be defended by the union's phalanx of lawyers. Higher education? Despite enormous and above-inflation prices, for example, more than $300,000 sticker price for one student of 4 years at a brand-name coastal private, and most students take longer than 4 years, a major study of colleges nationwide, it was published by the University of Chicago Press, found that 36% of students, quote, did not demonstrate any significant improvement in learning over 4 years of college, end quote. Graduate school? Like undergraduate school, it's taught mainly by professors who are hired and promoted based heavily on how many research dollars they can bring in. That is inimical to excellent teaching. The well-funded researchers' talents, skills, and incentives are different from those of master teachers. The ability to deeply engage students so they leave with learning of enduring importance. That's different from Saturday Night Live satirist Dr. Guido Sarducci, who offered, I guess it was Father Guido Sarducci, who offered a degree saying something like, I'm only going to charge you for what you use. The tuition? $500. We want to believe in education, which in theory holds the greatest promise for our children, our future. Alas, the facts cast doubt on that. For example, despite $22 trillion spent on anti-poverty programs, much on education, the achievement gap remains wide as ever. Now, by the way, for every one of those kind of assertions that I've made here, I have links in the text version of this, which will be on medium.com. I'll have the link on the below this video. Excuse me. My optimism for education lies in AI-assisted education. A version is being piloted in a public charter school called Unbounded Academy, and I propose a bolder version that I call super courses. Government transportation policy. Instead of building more roads and lanes to reduce stressful, time-consuming traffic, even the budget's road component is heavily used to reduce roads, convert existing lanes into bike lanes, or shrub clumps, build concrete barriers to close off streets, and speed humps and dangerous multi-entry roundabouts to make our trips take longer and more uncomfortable. To make driving so expensive that it forces all but the rich to be stuffed into mass transit, government ever hikes registration fees, gas taxes, and tolls, converts more lanes into toll lanes, and imposes heavy fines for parking tickets, let alone for not stopping at a stop sign. And now, cameras automatically issue tickets not just for red light violations, but for speeding. So much for politicians caring for the poor any more than they care about them by allowing lotteries, racetracks, and gambling casinos, which disproportionately do prey on people who can't afford to lose. These transportation edicts are aimed heavily to reduce CO2 emissions, but it's mere virtue signaling. China alone emits more CO2 than the entire Western Hemisphere. Why would it do that? In part because China builds 2 coal-fired power plants a week, and they do that because the cost per kilowatt hour is dramatically lower than renewable energy sources, thereby helping to keep its population from destitution. Other developing nations are making similar choices. A better approach, in my opinion, is to build more roads, but raise miles per gallon standards. In my 50-mile-per-gallon Prius, I have the freedom to go when and where I want, but I save money on gas while helping the air. There seems little need to drive a gas guzzler. We also should prioritize development of ever-safer nuclear and other virtually unlimited sources of clean energy. And finally, I dislike today's pummeling of dissent from the orthodoxy. It's risky to offer ideas that dare veer from the liberal orthodoxy, that BIPOCs, that's black and indigenous people of color, are victims of white supremacy, systemic racism, and implicit bias, let alone to ask a question like, if those are so causal, how come across the world's 200 countries, some majority black, some never colonized, for millennia, are blacks at bottom in achievement, top in violent crime? Such questions tend to be squashed a priori as racist, using the 3-bladed 3C scythe: censure, censor, and cancel. Today's censorship from the left dwarfs the right's McCarthyism that the left continues to flog 75 years later. True solutions come from clear-eyed exploration of problems and solutions. Some, but not all, wisdom resides on the left. Solutions to society's problems, for example, energy, healthcare, the national debt, the achievement gap, about what to do with all the workers who will be displaced by AI, will best come not from truncation of ideas that don't conform to the orthodoxy, but from fair-minded consideration of the full array of responsibly held ideas throughout the ideological matrix. So, those are things I like and don't. You care to share yours? In any event, that's what I like, what I love and don't. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, and certainly would welcome you take a look at any of my 34 books. Perhaps the one most relevant to this is either What's the Big Idea or A Dose of Reality, but all 34 are on Amazon. I invite you to go there. In any event, thanks for watching. I'm Marty Nemko.